Hello, and welcome to the 149th Annual Mr. Canada Pageant Show. I'm Spiro, and I will be your host for the evening. This is one of the most awaited events of the century, and I will have the pleasure of walking you through our contestants for the night. We started with over 20 contestants. Although all excellent, we have narrowed it down to our top 5 candidates for Mr. Canada 2016. Now let's meet our top 5 candidates. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Right and Honorable John Diefenbaker. The Right and Honorable Renee Levesque. The Right and Honorable Lester B. Pearson. The Right and Honorable William Leon Mackenzie King. And the crowd favorite for the second year in a row, the Right and Honorable Pierre Elliott Trudeau. For the next part of the night, we will let our candidates introduce themselves and also elaborate to ourselves and the judges why they should be Mr. Canada 2016. So let's all welcome John Diefenbaker to the stage. In 1957, I appointed Ellen Fairclough as Canadians' first female cabinet minister. This was a huge step for women's rights at the time. This really shows how I saw both genders as equal. Might I add, not a common point of view in the 1950s. Electing Miss Fairclough ultimately broke open the ideology that women could not have leading roles in political positions. This also led to many other women being elected in the following years. In 1958, I appointed James Gladstone as Canada's first Aboriginal senator. Again, we see how I was going against the grain and electing a minority. At the time, this was a huge step towards Canadian Aboriginal affairs being neutralized. As well, having an Aboriginal office allowed their people to have a fair say in politics, preventing further conflict. In the long run, this gave Aboriginals more rights and freedoms and led to more Aboriginals being elected into office. In 1960, I passed the Canadian Bill of Rights. This was the first federal law to protect human rights and fundamental freedoms. This led to the establishment of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which replaced my bill in 1982. The bill, however, still affects federal and provincial laws today. In 1963, I, with the help of my government of course, created the Economic Council of Canada. This strengthened Canada's international, financial, and trade position, studied the effects of economic growth and technical change on unemployment and income, and increased Canadian participation in the ownership, control, and management of industries in Canada. This was very effective until its termination in 1993. Impressive, but will it be enough to give him the first place prize? Stay tuned and find out. Next we have Renee Levesque. He is not a Prime Minister, but still an honorable politician. Hello, my name is Renee Levesque. I was a Premier of Quebec from 1976 to 1985. Other than a Premier, I was also a politician, a journalist, and a nationalist. Throughout my term, I was a central figure of the Quiet Revolution. This was a time of rapid change for Quebec in the 1960s. The revolution shaped Quebec into what it is today and solved many issues regarding Canada-Quebec relations. It gave Quebecers a sense of national pride of the culture and province. It unfortunately sparked the October crisis in 1970. I'm also creator of the energy powerhouse that became Hydro-Quebec. This is the largest crown corporation in North America. Francophones were able to work entirely in French and allow them to develop their technical, scientific, management skills. It remains a symbol of success and a source of pride for the Quebecois. The powerhouse still contributes to North American society and provides jobs and improves Canadian economy. I was a founder of the Parti Québécois and the leader of Quebec's first openly separatist government. It was a national political party, formed in Quebec in 1968 through the merger of the movement Souveraineté Association, and the Railment National. The Parti Québécois' main objective was Quebec independence, and for 15 years, I was the leading champion of that ideal, holding and losing the province's first referendum on independence in 1980. Wow, it'll be hard to top that. Next up, we have Lester Pearson. Hello, my name is Lester Pearson. I was the 14th Prime Minister of Canada. Aside from being the Prime Minister, I was also a statesman, politician, public servant, and a professor. I served from 1963 to 1968. I created the Canada Pension Plan in 1965. The pension transfers income from workers to the retired. Most importantly, it ensures the continued financial viability of the CPP in the face of rising expenditures. The Canadian Pension Plan led to further developments in the pension, as well as the establishment of the old age pension. We see in today's world how the old age pension is more important than ever. In 1966, I introduced a universal Medicare system. Although I would never see it active, it influenced Tommy Douglas to establish Medicare in 1984. Over time, that Medicare has evolved into the free healthcare that treats millions of Canadians daily. In 1956, I established the Unified Armed Forces. This is very impactful because it unified the Canadian Armed Forces. Even today, it continues to spread peace. At the time, it served as a key element to solve the Suez Crisis. It also stopped potential war between UK, England, and Egypt. As well, it worked to prevent a major rift in US-England relations. The Unified Armed Forces influenced NATO. Later on, in 1957, I would win a Nobel Peace Prize due to my handling of the Suez Crisis. One of my more minor contributions to Canada was establishing the new flag. The flag represented our nation and served to spread Canadian nationalism and patriotism. Wow, definitely an excellent Prime Minister, whose contributions to Canada were important and impactful. Our next contestant is somewhat of a legend. He served for over 22 years, making him the longest Prime Minister to ever be in office. Without further ado, please welcome William Leon Mackenzie King. Hello. Thanks for that introduction, Jacob. As you heard, I was Prime Minister for over 22 years. It was an honor serving my country for such a long time. It gave me the opportunity to accomplish so much for the country I love. Some of these accomplishments include creating the old age pension in 1926. The pension helped Canadians avoid poverty in retirement. I also appointed Corinne Wilson as the first woman senator in 1930. This was a big step for women in Canada. It opened the Canadian minds and led the path for other women in politics. I also created the National Resources Mobilization Act in 1940. It represented the government's response to the public clamor for a more effective Canadian war effort that arose in the wake of the stunning German victories in Belgium and France. It attested to the government's determination to intensify the war effort. It tended to appease the conscriptionists without antagonizing the anti-conscriptionists. The act lasted until the end of the war. It resulted in the training of a large body of men for military duty. From 1940 to 1944, close to 60,000 NRMA soldiers volunteered for general service, and several thousand more were sent to the front after the use of conscripts. Overseas service actually began late in 1944, which contributed to war efforts greatly internationally. I also contributed with the construction of the Alaskan Highway from 1942 to 1943. Although originally built for military purposes, the highway has helped the forestry, oil, mining, tourist, and trucking industries. It provided an important impetus to the development of Edmonton as a supply center and as an enduring link to northern BC and the Yukon. Over time, it has also had the psychological benefit of ending the isolation of the North. The last way I contributed to Canada while in office was creating the Family Allowances Act of 1944. The Act was a monthly government payment to families with children to help cover the costs of child maintenance. This was the first universal welfare program in Canada. It was eventually replaced by the child tax benefit in 1992. Thank you, William. Up next, we have a crowd and personal favorite, Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Pierre Elliott Trudeau. Hi, my name is Pierre Trudeau. I was the 16th Prime Minister of Canada and served from 1968 to 1979 and 1980 to 1984. I wasn't always a Prime Minister. I was also a politician, a writer, and a constitutional lawyer. I've always been known as a charismatic and controversial figure, but this isn't the only reason why I was elected into office twice. I also contributed and developed Canada in ways never seen before. Some of these contributions include dealing with the October crisis. The October crisis is considered the largest terrorist attack on Canada ever. It was the only time Canada invoked the Wartime Measures Act in Canada's history. The police were enabled with far-reaching powers, and they arrested and detained, without bail, 497 individuals, all but 62 of whom were later released without charges. The crisis galvanized support against the use of violence in efforts to gain Quebec's sovereignty. It accelerated the movement towards the electoral means of attaining greater autonomy and independence. It also gained support from the Parti Québécois, which formed the provincial government in 1976. Moving on, I created the Official Language Act in 1969. This made English and French the official languages of Canada. It required that all federal institutions to provide services in English or French on request. It was later replaced in 1969 by a new Official Language Act. In the beginning, it served to appease FLQ members and many other French-speaking Canadians. One of my biggest contributions while serving in office was patriating the British North American Act of 1867. Patriating the Act officially made Canada an independent country. This enabled Canada to make new laws without approval from Britain. Finally, I created the Canadian Constitution and embellished the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. This guarantees the rights of individuals, protects Canadians, citizen or immigrant, contains principal rights and freedoms, and gives government the power to limit. The Constitution and Charter is still in act today. Wow, all excellent candidates, but unfortunately, only one can be crowned Mr. Canada 2016. For the final portion of the night, we will turn to our judge to see the results. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Simon Cowell. Hello, everyone. As mentioned before, I am Grammy Award winner and the 5-time judge on Britain's Got Talent, Simon Cowell. I would just like to start off by saying that all of our nominees for the evening have contributed a lot to Canada, and all deserve to be Mr. Canada. That being said, there can only be one crown tonight. I will judge the candidates based on the following criteria: their impact on the world today, their significance at the time, their overall effectiveness, and their accomplishments. We will start off with Prime Minister John Diefenbaker. Out of 5, John Diefenbaker scored 3.5 on impact on the world today, 3 on significance at the time, 3 on overall effectiveness, and 3 on accomplishments. Out of 5, René Lévesque scored 3 on impact on the world today, a 4 on significance at the time, a 3 on overall effectiveness, and a 3.75 on accomplishments. Out of 5, Lester Pearson scored a 4.5 on impact on the world today, a 4 on significance at the time, a 4 on overall effectiveness, and a 4 on accomplishments. Out of 5, William Leon Mackenzie King scored a 4 on impact on the world today, a 4.5 on significance at the time, a 4 on overall effectiveness, and a 4.5 on accomplishments. Out of 5, Pierre Elliott Trudeau scored a 4.5 on impact on the world today, a 5 on significance at the time, a 5 on overall effectiveness, and a 5 on accomplishments. Whoa, settle down, audience. Well, it appears that we have a winner. Beating William King by just 2 points, Pierre Trudeau comes in first place, making him Mr. Canada 2016.